Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237. This is John. Just figured I'd do another slasher film review before I watch whatever it is I'm going to watch next. Because I just reviewed Maniac, and where that is on the shelf, I noticed this movie. And this is one I don't really have to watch again because it's so simple and I remember quite a bit of it. This is another one of the biggest, most important slasher films ever. And this is from 1981, which is arguably the best year for slashers next to 1980. And that is The Burning. Absolute classic. A lot of people could say, oh, it's a Friday the 13th ripoff or whatever, but I really like The Burning. I love The Burning. And I like how it takes like an urban legend, Cropsy, and incorporates it into a slasher film. I don't really know the story of the real life legend Cropsy, but I like what they did in this. So again, came out in 1981, a year after Friday the 13th, a year after Maniac, and this also has gore effects by Tom Savini. Which, the kills definitely have great gore effects. The look of Cropsy himself isn't his strongest. Even Tom Savini himself says he wished he could redo it. Like, if he could go back, he would make him look more like a real burn victim rather than the look he went for. So The Burning's pretty simple. I mean, it opens up with there's these young boys at a summer camp. They're talking about this guy Cropsy, who's the caretaker of this camp. And I guess he's a mean bastard. He's mean to kids. So they want to get him back. They want to pull this prank on him. They have this fake rotting skull with a candle in it. And they manage to get it into Cropsy's cabin while he's sleeping. So when he wakes up, he'll see it and get scared. Which he does, but he knocks it over, sets his bed on fire, thus his cabin and himself. And the dude is burning for a long ass time. I mean, the stuntman, that's a long time for a stuntman to be burning. He survives, and then, we see him. We don't see him, but we see people in the hospital sort of talking about him. Like, there's this one guy that says something like, "That man's so burnt, he's cooked." Some stupid line. Then we jump, I think it's 10 years later, and, we see that Cropsy, you don't see his face till the end. And I like how they give him that Giallo look, like the fedora and the covered face and the gloves. Not a Giallo film whatsoever, but it is a slasher, which is derivative. He's told that the skin grafts aren't compatible and plastic surgery isn't compatible. He's going to be stuck like this. Then we see him get a hooker, which he kills with garden shears. That's his... that's his a modus operandi, like Jason's machete or Michael Myers' kitchen knife. He uses garden shears. I can't remember the name of the camps. Does it say? Actually, it's 5 years, not 10. Yeah, it doesn't say the camp's name. But anyway, I don't think it's the same camp. I think it's nearby. And Cropsy has now become a legend. They sort of treat him like the legend, like sitting around the campfire, and they're like, don't breathe, he'll hear you. Don't look, he'll see you. And then it gets all quiet, and they scream like, "You're dead!" And that's the jump scare for all the kids around the fire. And no pun intended, this movie is a bit of a slow burn, but it pays off in a big way. I mean, who were some of the kids? I mean, horror films, especially slasher films, are known for being the sort of first role for big actors. I mean, Johnny Depp's first role was in Nightmare on Elm Street. Tom Hanks was in a slasher film called He Knows You're Alone. I mean, Kevin Bacon, he was actually in Animal House, but his first big role was Friday the 13th. This movie, you have Fisher Stevens, who I know he's a big name, but I can't place what he's been in. You have Jason Alexander, George Costanza from Seinfeld. And it's funny in this because he has hair, he's kind of fit, he's always wearing a football jersey, he's kind of popular with the ladies. He's sort of the wise ass. Brief role by Holly Hunter. Can't remember the kid's name, but the one that has the crush on Jennifer Jason Leigh in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. They're all in this. And so, you know, Fisher Stevens and George from Seinfeld and a couple other kids, they're like a group of friends. And then there's this other kid named Glazer who's like the tough guy asshole, but he's really just a moron and a pussy. And it's just how all these counselors get along. The head counselor is sort of in a relationship with the female counselor. The kid from Fast Times at Ridgemont High is kind of a weirdo. He tries pulling a prank on this one girl in the shower, and he just never explains himself. He's just a weirdo. He's like, I was just trying to scare her. Well, I don't know. And then there's like a big, it's like they're at a campground, but they plan a camping trip. Like they all get in canoes and they have to go to some faraway place. And then that's sort of the killing ground for Cropsy. Like there's this one counselor who keeps trying to have sex with this female counselor, and he gets really pissed off when she stops him. And she gets murdered. But then, so it's like over an hour, I think, after the hooker gets killed in the beginning before you really see any kills. But that slow burn pays off, because what is the one thing everyone remembers from the burning? The raft scene. So, like one night, all the boats are untied and let go. So they have to make a raft out of, you know, wood and branches. And you get a bunch of characters on it. I mean, there's like 4 or 5. And then they find one of the canoes and they paddle up to it, and you get this great shot. It's like back to, and you just see Cropsy rise up into the sun, so it's just a silhouette with the garden shears, and it's like this stabs down this one girl. Fisher Stevens puts his hand up, he gets his fucking fingers cut off. Other guy gets like stabbed in the chest, and like on him you can kind of see the latex and how the effect was done. But you know, that raft scene where like 4 or 5 people just get slaughtered all right in a row, it's awesome. It's one of the best scenes in slash films, and that's the bulk of the kills. And then that kid Glazer, he's always trying to have sex with this girl Sally. Of course, Sally gets garden shears in the neck, and then he also gets him in the neck, but he gets like lifted and pushed back into a tree. And then it pretty much all just comes down to the finale when you find out the head counselor guy was one of the boys that pranked Cropsy in the beginning. Spoiler alert. But so Cropsy has like a special plan for him. And I don't really remember the ending too well. But I know that like the Fast Times kid gets like taken by Cropsy to this rundown cabin, then the head counselor has to go fight him. Another fire starts and Cropsy dies in the fire. And that's pretty much it. But yeah, I mean, and yeah, most of it is all build up to that one raft scene, but it's still a fun movie. It's actually really funny. You know, Jason Alexander, he's the comedy relief. He's like, there's a part where they're all looking at Playboys, and he just, imagine George from Seinfeld saying like, oh, God bless her mom and dad. You know, like that New York accent he has. He's always cracking jokes. That one kid Glazer, who's the tough guy, is just a fucking moron. You know, he tries acting cool with Sally. He's always saying stupid shit like, you mean that? You really mean that, don't you? Like when she says we can have sex or whatever. But The ultimate horror thriller, Los Angeles Herald-Examiner. I mean, it is slow paced, and other than the raft scene, you really only get a couple kills here and there. So, you know, it's not as non-stop as Maniac. It's not as, you know, variety of kills like Friday the 13th or My Bloody Valentine. But it's a perfect blend of humor and gore and, well, not really gore, but it does have great gore effects by Savini. And slasher films. I mean, the slasher genre was still booming by 81, or it already had boomed quite a bit, but there were still big early examples coming out. But yeah, you know, kind of a shorter review than usual, but with again, like I said with Maniac, there's not a whole lot to talk about with slasher films, especially conventional ones like this. Group of people, a certain kind of setting, there's a killer with more or less with a motive, and they get killed off one by one. Or in this case, there's a raft where fucking half the deaths are on the raft. But anyway, The Burning, truly a slasher classic. If you're collecting horror films, especially slasher films, this is a must-have. I know for a while they were talking about remaking this, which, why? The only thing I could see was making Cropsy look a little bit better, because Cropsy isn't the best looking in this. Oh, and then of course it ends with another campfire story with another group of people given the Cropsy story. So it's like, was it all a story? Or, you know, has the legend expanded that much? But still, I think The Burning's very fun. It's especially that raft scene. I mean, there's a reason why, you know, The Burning, everyone remembers the raft scene. Sleepaway Camp, everyone remembers the ending, because it sticks with you that much. Not my favorite Tom Savini film as far as effects go, but even then, still pretty goddamn good, and better than some other slashers out there. But anyway, I wanted to kind of do these back to back, because I really love these movies. Two great Tom Savini ones. Because the next one I'm going to review, there's some sort of controversy over Tom Savini doing effects for it. It says so in the credits, but he says he didn't. And I keep forgetting how the movie goes. You'll see what that next one is. But yeah, The Burning, true definition of classic, one of the best examples of the slasher genre, especially the early 80s when it was still good and peaking. So for Room 237, that's The Burning. Thank you.